Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. It's been another big week for crypto. Bitcoin continues to lead the pack. Huge week for VeChain as they made that token swap over to mainnet. Binance has been strong throughout 2018 and Zcash there as well, one of the best performers this week. But let's dive over into our new favorite segment on this day in history. So it was this time last year when there was a mass exodus of cryptocurrency off exchanges, with a lot of people wanting to make sure they captured that hard fork and received their Bitcoin Cash. So this was only a year ago. I know it seems like longer. And 3 years ago today, we saw the launch of Ethereum. Now, ICO price was 30 cents. It wasn't really widely traded at all. If you could, manage to get some off those early investors and developers, it was trading for around 50 cents. But congratulations to Vitalik. Again, 3 years ago, 30 cents. Mind-blowing numbers there, guys. We've come a long way and there's still a long way to go for Ethereum. Next up, I just want to mention another segment we're launching. So the Ask Nugget Show, we want to take all the community's questions. We're getting a new wave of beginners that we've noticed. So we want to make more educational content, but certainly we want to try and get on guests. If we've got trading questions, we'll get on our trading friends. Sentiment questions, psychology, we'll try and get on the relevant guests and really make this an interactive show and try and give back to the community and answer all your questions, guys. So use that hashtag on all our Twitters if you're interested. Another warning here, there's a lot of fake emails going around. I got 2 this week about having to register your Ethereum. So for those that don't know, speaking of Ethereum development, a long way to go. They are making that switch to proof of stake in the future. These are the sort of emails that are going to try and ask you to register your address, and then they'll ask you for your private key and all that sort of thing, guys. These are scams. Ethereum aren't ever going to message you. Just stay safe out there. Every day the scammers are looking for new ways to get money off you. So let's talk about the headlines this week. And something we're talking about in our group this week was the Bitcoin futures. Now they expired, and as Glenn says here, a magical 4.5% candle just happens to appear. So you can see it best on this chart. Futures expire, and almost to the minute, it takes off with this big 5% move. So there's a few things here that I want to mention. People say, this is blatant manipulation. And, guys, we don't know. We're never going to find out the exact answer. But yes, the crypto markets are manipulated to some degree. Now, I've spoken about, Max Payne in the past in terms of when futures or options expire. Those that have big positions, if they can push the market in either direction to make bigger profits or, reduce their losses, they're going to do so. But this all ties into the ETF's decision about that markets can be manipulated. And that's one of the biggest warnings the SEC are talking about at the moment. So yes, we do just have to be aware, guys, that this is why particularly beginners shouldn't be trading on leverage and making big bets in the short term, because markets can do anything really in the short term. We use technical and fundamental analysis to try and better gauge and win more than we lose and so on, be consistent over time. But look, this is just a sign that, the powers that be are out there. Let's think long term, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of the presentation as well. All that sort of manipulation leads into what I just wanted to mention and what I tweeted about, that, think about all these wealthy players that aren't early adopters. Now, for the first time ever, they didn't get the opportunity to, invest in the Bitcoin IPO or, venture capitalists put money into these startup projects. Okay, this is the first time in history where Wall Street and high net worth individuals are late to the party. So denying ETFs and using futures to, push the price down and creating FUD headlines, all those sort of things, guys, we need to expect it. You've got to have thick skin, expect these big corrections, because this is exactly what I would do if I was late to the party and rich. I'd be trying to do everything I can to accumulate more Bitcoin and my favorite coins before we see the next huge run, which, look, we all know it's coming. It's just a matter of when, guys. So that's the point I was trying to get across with that tweet. So, look, the ETF did get rejected. This was a great story by some Aussie guys, and it's since come out in a few other sources as well, about the one SEC commissioner that was in favour and just saying, look, Wall Street always says they want to nurture innovation. The SEC says, look, we're not against technology and development and all that sort of thing, yet here they are doing exactly what they're sort of saying that they don't mean to set out to do. So you just got to be aware there's people out there that are batting for us. I think it was 4-1 against though, and that was probably the main headline that moved markets this week. So just a couple more I want to get through quickly. Jerome Powell, the new head of the US Federal Reserve, saying that, look, we're not going to make a Fed coin, and we believe governments and central banks, should take more of a hands-off approach. Now, all these things are so positive, guys. I'm going to talk about all the headwinds that Bitcoin's faced. It's, people call it anti-fragile. It doesn't kill it, make it stronger. It's already, approaching 10 years old, and it's accomplished so much and will continue to do so. And then tie that together with the longer-term price predictions as well. Now, just because we're not getting these ETFs in the US, it doesn't mean that there's not other stock markets. The NASDAQ looking to get on with these secret meetings, and as I keep saying, the race is on. Markets want new customers, they want the fees, and there's already trading products in Europe, and I'd love to see one in Australia. We're getting more and more funds. So look, I know we focus a lot on the US, I'll continue to say it. They create the headlines, but they're not the be all and end all, guys. So here was the main headline. We'll get to the charts and we'll see the reaction that the market did panic. This isn't my favorite website by any means, vanityfair.com, but this was the headline that I think is important and what I wanted to expand on. So the Bitcoin brothers, the Winklevoss twins, they can't catch a break. And this is important to notice that they're not part of the club. They missed out on Facebook. Did their idea get stolen? I'll let you be the judge of that. But they're not Wall Street, okay? They're billionaires now from investing in Bitcoin very early on when it was taboo, okay? That is very different, and one of the main points of difference that's in favor of the VanEck ETF getting approved. These guys are part of the club, okay? These guys run some of the biggest ETFs in the world. They're not the biggest provider of ETFs in the world, but they certainly run some of the biggest. Assets under management here, $8 billion, the GDX gold miners, $5 billion, the junior gold miners, high yield debt, all these sort of things, okay, guys, Russian ETFs. You've heard of these, you might have traded them. These guys aren't new. This isn't their first rodeo, okay? So that is one of the first things I want to mention that gives them a better chance to get their ETF approved. The second thing is that the manipulation that I've just touched on then, this ETF wants to price their ETF and source the Bitcoin to back it from OTC markets. Now, manipulation can happen. We just saw a BitMEX chart there. There's hundreds of crypto exchanges where you can open an account and deposit Bitcoin and not do KYC. So you can start to mess around and manipulate prices, even if you do have to register. Who's to say that you're not manipulating prices or whatever? Whereas the OTC market, okay, high net worth individuals, you've seen Prash from Caleb and Brown in Australia. We've spoken to them. It's very regulated. We need lawyers to match these huge multi-million-dollar orders. Document verification, bank verification. It's so tightly regulated. So that is one thing that is very much in favor of that ETF getting approved, and that's the one that everyone's really sort of hanging their hat on now. Now, this survey was very interesting because I think the odds are a lot lower than this, whether a Bitcoin or any crypto ETF will be approved this year, guys. There's only 4 months left in the year now, and a lot of people, the majority, are still thinking that, yeah, this is a sure thing. I really think that it's more of a long shot than that, guys. We've got to keep in mind the dates that they can push it back. Again, at the end, I'm going to talk long term, but February 2019 is that date, and the SEC wants to buy as much time, dot every I, cross every T. They don't want egg on their face. They're going to give themselves as much time as they can. That's what I think is going to happen, guys. So I really think we're going to get an ETF, but I really don't think it's this year. I'm going to talk about why that doesn't really matter in the scheme of things either at the end. Now, nobody wants to be first, but everyone wants to be a close second, and people might laugh at Mike Novogratz. Look, he's a billionaire, so laugh at him all you want. Their fund made $130 million loss. So I know a lot of you are hurting and we're bleeding. Our altcoin portfolios are likely down if you got in last year. But this is all normal, and these are people that have been in the space, myself included, that'll tell you, look, if you're in good projects, I think personally now I've been through 6 or 8 50 to 90% corrections. Do you think Mike Novogratz is, he's probably frustrated. I'm not sure what the fund was worth in inception. I think about 500 mil. That fund's down huge. He's got to answer to millionaires that put in huge amounts of money. So I know some people are frustrated. Their altcoin accounts are down. But just be aware that high risk, high reward. And if you're in good projects, these things move huge. We just saw then VeChain, 40 odd % in a week. Okay, they bounce back, and good projects bounce back hard and fast. Some more good news that I thought went a little bit unnoticed this week. South Korean regulators pressuring lawmakers to pass crypto bill, and we already saw volumes come back a little bit this week. I tweeted last night about the arbitrage with Amiseago trading at $9 in South Korea on BitThumb, when it's trading at $6 on most of the other exchanges. So this is all really good signs, and the race is on, guys. Nobody wants to be left behind. Okay, so maybe the US does if they don't speed things up. Some other big news this week: Facebook earnings crashed 20%. There's been some headlines about whether or not Mark Zuckerberg sold all that stock, if that falls into insider trading, knowing that they were due for bad earnings and all that sort of thing. So that's going to be in the headlines as well going forward and being investigated. This was a $160 billion market cap, gone. Now, that's bigger than the entire market cap of Bitcoin, and I think I tweeted that, that would double the price, but that's just if the market cap doubled. If all that money actually tried to go into Bitcoin on one day, that's different again, okay? So the way I've spoken about how market caps work, I'm not going to go into it in detail in this video, but, 24-hour volumes in the few millions. Imagine if all that money actually tries to get into crypto. Not in one day, not in 1 week, even over a month or a few months, okay? And there's a lot of money floating around looking for a home that central banks have printed. Twitter down 20% as well. All these people are looking for yield. It's a low interest rate environment around the world. This all ties together with this macro stuff I talk about, that Russia are dumping bonds. What are they buying? And, I touched on this already, that keep an eye on gold and silver. Uranium I own some stocks in. Commodities in general. And this is the ratio between stocks and commodities. And, in the dot-com bubble, stocks are extended, resources are cheap. It's time to change. In the GFC, once everyone's panicked and sold, gold was at all time, getting up towards expensive, and maybe stocks starting to get cheap at the very bottom of that cycle. And again, here we are in 2017, where we've got to say, look, are stocks getting expensive? Is it time to sell? In his gold, 6-year bear market, silver down, the same thing, down at $14, $15, 6-year correction. Uranium down 90% from its highs. Is it time to start to look at commodities, and is that cycle over? And this is where you make big money, guys, capturing somewhere near the start and the finish of these big macro trends that play out over years. Okay, so again, be prepared to be early. Maybe gold goes down another 20%. Maybe Bitcoin goes down another 20% if something unforeseen happens. But think about your macro view, where money is going to park itself. And that's how you make life-changing amounts of money. Okay, into the crypto stuff, guys. So last week, Bitcoin was trading at 7,400, and there was a couple of scenarios that I was sort of looking at, and we were speaking about our cycle brackets, and this is the first time we'd had a right-hand translation where we go up for the majority of the length of the bracket, and then we pull back, and then we have the next leg higher. And what we're waiting to see is whether or not, we chop around and then have a bit of a cool off here. We were pretty extended, but the scenario that I, again, didn't think was likely. It's funny how quickly we've gone from completely bearish to pretty bullish. Look at this cycle bracket. It's gone up for just about the entire length of the bracket. We had huge news in terms of an ETF being rejected, and everyone, if this was a bear market, this could have really caused some blood and some damage. And in the scheme of things, it didn't even really give up, that previous day huge gains over the next couple of days. Now, we're approaching that 200-day moving average that I spoke about. Again, there's so many reasons why this could have had a bigger pullback. And look, maybe we roll over early in this cycle if we get some more really bad news and continue lower for the length of this bracket. But the way that this is setting up now, that the RSI's cooled off a little bit and we've barely given back anything in price, is that we're due, tomorrow, this week, to maybe have that push higher. So again, I'm surprised at how quickly these market sentiments have turned. Now, what else am I liking about this chart? So we haven't really had a clear, break on the MACD on the weekly. I'll show you in a second. So this can cross, on the daily and give us a bear cross, something to be aware of. Again, these things, I don't put too much weight in them, but we've just got to be prepared at what the headlines are going to show us, because we got that death cross on the daily that caused headlines at the time. Whether or not we get the same sort of headlines on the positive on the flip side, we'll wait and see. But look, this is where we got the bearish MACD cross on the weekly here. Bitcoin trading at around 11,600. And look, obviously we know after that happened, it continued to trend lower. So are we going to get that bull cross on the weekly on the MACD? Again, maybe we get some good headlines. Maybe some technical traders, they trade this and gives those markets a little bit of a boost. That's just all those little things that I'm looking at. And finally, what we've been sort of keeping an eye on for weeks now was this volume, and saying, look, this has to change. We can't just continue this declining volume. And there's another 24 hours left in trading of this weekly candle as I record this Sunday afternoon in Australia. But this, again, it's going to be bigger than last week, and the biggest bull volume we've seen since back in this period here, where we had those real strong moves from $6,000 up to 10,000 there. So plenty of positives. The bulls have shown back up in some capacity. I think that's all I wanted to show you guys. Let's just have a look at the 4 hour just quickly, because that did get overextended and stay pretty overextended for a period of time here. And look, as it's cooled off, look, price just isn't declining. It's just going sideways and building that momentum for the next leg higher. So again, considering how bad this could have been, guys, man, we've recovered quickly. Those bulls just weren't showing up even just, a couple of weeks ago. And here they are starting to buy the dips. So let's head over to Ethereum, 4 hour chart there. Let's have a look and zoom out at what we were looking at last week. So Ethereum was trading at 460, coming back to sort of test these levels here. What we're looking at is still just not being able to even break these slower moving averages, whereas Bitcoin's come up and just about testing its 200-day. Again, Ethereum and Litecoin continue to lag. Fundamental-wise, Raiden, Ethereum's Lightning Network, is up and running on the testnet. So plenty of positives there. Ethereum's future's been brighter than ever. Look, I read about other coins, guys. I'll just show you Litecoin quickly, and I'm really holding that $80, that weekly close that we haven't seen below. Again, now below the slower moving averages here. But again, I think these things are going to catch up, very quickly once they move. So I said to my members today, I'm looking at coins that I don't yet own, that I feel have got good technology, and Cardano is certainly one of those. But reading the white paper and reading the EOS white paper and seeing how much money these have raised, and they're behind schedule, maybe not fulfilling as the promises and doing everything they thought they were going to be able to do as quickly as they thought they were going to be able to do it. And look, I love Ethereum. It is one of my biggest holdings because of how early I got in, but I certainly do own EOS. I'm looking to add Cardano to my portfolio, but you've just got to remember, guys, that good projects take time, and Ethereum is scaling. All these other projects are trying different things and trading off, one thing for the other. Delegated proof of stake, number of nodes, on-chain governance versus off-chain, different settlement layers for computation versus transacting value in Cardano's case. So I'm looking forward to doing a full fundamental analysis on that. Great project, great team, but just have to remember, guys, that I think a lot of people were expecting this to maybe, be further along at this stage, and we've seen EOS have to delay, and Ethereum had to delay a lot back in the day. Bitcoin had to make hard forks and changes early on, so it's never smooth sailing, and I think sometimes coins get really criticized too hard, and obviously this one's had a huge decline in price, just about 90% there from its highs, and that's when you want to be looking to add good coins to your portfolio. So finally, we'll just take a quick look at VeChain, if I've got it here on the list. And VeChain are making that swap to mainnet, which I think has thrown a lot of people. So that's the final thing I wanted to mention here, guys. Ven tokens are going to swap to VET. So this was just an ERC20 token. This is now on their own blockchain. I think that's what's confusing a lot of people. And the other thing is that ratio changing over. So you don't just make 100 times your money overnight, guys. You'll get 100 VET tokens for each one VET you have, but then the price obviously gets divided by 100. So the amount of money you have is the same before and after. The other thing that I think is throwing people is that now the blockchain will work, and I've done an episode on this, guys, with VeChain Thor, and that's the same relationship between VET and VeChain Thor as NEO and gas. So you pay gas to use transactions and the network's computational capacity. That's the same relationship. So I might do another video on that if you're interested. Watch this video by the VeChain Foundation for more information about that wallet. It's out on Apple and Android now as well, guys. Most exchanges have done that for you already. You know, Binance, CoinSpot in Australia, most of the big reputable ones. So finally, I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Now, back in 2013, you know, I was dreaming Bitcoin was under $100. If it ever got to $3,000, you know, I'd be absolutely stoked. In 2016, Ethereum was $6, and I remember thinking, geez, I really hope if I could see it getting to $100 in the next couple of years. And, you know, we often sort of overestimate in the short term, as we saw with the bubble, the altcoin sort of bubble, people getting too far ahead of themselves for where the technology's at. But sometimes we underestimate in the medium term. So not even necessarily long term, but just in the medium term, we forget that, you know, it rolls around and 5 years has passed and here we are. So take a step back sometimes, guys, and have a think about this. I remember my best mate's dad that passed away last year when he told us about the first computer he ever bought, and the salesman said, look, you know, if you maybe the base model was 5 megabytes, and he said, look, if you upgrade to the 10 megabyte hard disk, you'll never have to upgrade again. And we just forget that how quickly technology advances and what we're capable of, you know, when we all work together and people familiarize themselves with the technology. Again, here's an image of a 5 megabyte hard drive being shipped by IBM there in 1956. So technology, you know, we do underestimate it. Do we need a Bitcoin ETF? Is that what made Bitcoin great? Is that what took it from cents to $20,000 over the past 10 years? You know, Wall Street investing in it? No. Of course we want that big money to come in, guys, but it's not the be all and end all. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Check out our new website. It's coming, a lot of other features, but you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter there, guys. Remember that Ask Nugget segment. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, leave a comment below, share these videos around. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.